Wow, that was fast. Resident Evil 3. So Resident Evil 3, the remake is... That's right, it's the remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Sometimes it's all in the title, friends. Just like Resident Evil 2 last year was a remake of Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation. The events take place at the same time as Resident Evil 2. This time you play as Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 1. You play as her trying to escape from Raccoon City as Raccoon City is just burning to the ground. The zombies are rising, only Umbrella has dropped a new monster called the Nemesis to hunt her down. Alright, let the mayhem begin. So what I liked about this game is, first of all, when it starts out, it is intense. If you played the Resident Evil 2 remake, you know this game is going to look impressive. I believe it's built off of the same engine. So impressive graphics, impressive mood, impressive mood lighting. By mood lighting, I mean, you know, we're all gonna die kind of shit. Basic atmosphere and tone. The game looks great, as Resident Evil 2 did. And at a point in the intro, when you're running from this Nemesis, I was like, why can't Resident Evil movies be this intense? Why can't they be this good? It's like Doom. Why can't they make a proper Doom movie? Why can't they make a proper Resident Evil movie? But as these Resident Evil remakes are essentially playable Resident Evil movies, I guess this is good. This is fine. I also like the fact that it bounces from Jill to this guy named Carlos. He actually works for Umbrella, but he's not a dick. I mean, Umbrella, the corporation, they're dicks. But he seems to be a good guy. I like the fact that this person's figuring out that, hey, maybe the company I work for, maybe they're not good. I just like the fact that it emphasized that not everyone who works for dickbag companies are dickbags themselves. This kind of how life is. And like the Resident Evil 2 remake, the zombies still have that rubber head bullshit intermittent head bob. So you're like, stay still. I mean, you run into that because you're trying to conserve ammo. It's a Resident Evil game. You can't just take a shotgun blast to a zombie. You gotta save that for the difficult enemy. Though sometimes you're like, you know what, screw it, fuck you. The game has the Resident Evil 3 dodge mechanic. You can jump back and dodge from a zombie. Though zombies do lunge at you, so sometimes it works. So if you time it right, you will dodge past them under their arms. Though if you're Carlos, you don't just dodge, you Neo punch them in the chest. But I like that. That whole dodge mechanic gives a little more complexity to the gameplay. When you get that dodge mechanic down, you feel like a badass. Ah, shit, kind of a badass anyway. I mean, I was having fun with this game. I was along for the ride until at a point in the last act, I was like, I'm in a lab. That's Resident Evil for your at the end of the game. How long is this game? Or rather, how short? Which kind of shows the genius of Resident Evil 2, the PlayStation 1 original and the remake. They were like, we can have a game, and then you can play as another character in which their path does have different areas, but a lot of the same map as the other person. Then you can take them and swap their paths, and basically, if you play the same path through another character's eyes, it feels like you're experiencing a new game. Or at least a new experience, because new characters, new eyes, it feels new. Very smart way for gamers to get more gameplay hours out of a game. This game's more linear. Yes, you do jump over to Carlos's perspective, but it's not like you ever swap Jill for Carlos and you play the different paths. No, the game just kind of, it plays out and then it's done. And it definitely does feel a lot shorter than Resident Evil 2. I mean, I beat the game in 7 hours, but that's me sniffing around trying to get every piece of ammo and, you know, I wanted to get everything because it's a Resident Evil game. You need that ammo. I mean, yeah, if you want to farm all the trophies, you're going to play through this game a lot more than someone who just plays through the story. But any game's like that. For comparison's sake, the Resident Evil 3 remake's about as long as the Spider-Man game for PS4's DLC. I wouldn't pay $60 for Spider-Man DLC, and that's what this feels like. This feels like Resident Evil 2 DLC, Resident Evil 2.5. And there are even some zones in the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis game that aren't in the Resident Evil 3 remake. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you take an already short game and make it shorter for your remake? Like, if you look at Uncharted Lost Legacy, it was like, well, was it DLC? Is it remake? What is it? Reports are it started out as DLC, but then became its own game. So they're like, all right, we're just gonna make it its own thing and we'll sell it separately. Again, I believe Uncharted Lost Legacy is longer than Resident Evil 3, but also they sold Uncharted Lost Legacy at $40 when it was brand new. I mean, you can make the argument if a game's 5 hours long but feels like 15, did you get your money's worth? Because it feels like a full game. Or if a game's 15 hours long but feels like 5, you still get your money's worth, you know, perspective. But this game took me 7 hours and it felt like 7 hours. But it's not just gameplay length. Like, the Resident Evil 2 remake took Mr. X and they just made him a force to be reckoned with. They made him a constant threat. You can always hear him walking through the police station. Those footsteps were just ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. You felt like you were in A Quiet Place, the movie, just like They took an enemy from the original who showed up at certain designated times for an ammo sink sub-boss fight moment, and they made him a constant threat who's always patrolling this police station. It made him feel alive. It made it feel like the threat was always there, always coming after you. When you heard him behind a door, it's like, all right, maybe I'll take another route to get around. It was amazing. So with Nemesis, I wanted to see how they were going to do that with Nemesis. And they really didn't. No, he shows up and he's chasing your ass though for the first couple of encounters. If you damage him enough, I suggest one grenade that'll drop him to a knee. He drops a gun upgrade for you. Get that. It's well worth it. One grenade. But he basically chases you. He's like a dog herding you, like an Australian shepherd, herding you to the next area. Granted, it is cool if you go into another shop that you're not supposed to go into. He's right outside the window just looking at you like, oh God, I don't want to go outside. I actually went to the wrong area and I was like, okay, maybe I can go out there. Maybe he's not. Oh my God, he is. That was pretty intense, but really that ends when you get to the next zone you need to get to. It's like, all right, now you're there. And then you'll run into the Nemesis again who chases you again. You get to the next zone, sweetie's gone, or you gotta fight him for a second and then he's gone. Point is, he did not feel nearly as present in this game as Mr. X did in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Mr. X was elevated to be an enemy that you may or may not run into at any corner you round. It made him very unpredictable. With Nemesis, you run into him at designated, predetermined, very specific times, which is undeniably, that's a step back. Between that and some of the zones from the original game not being in this game, I feel like they were like, we really want this game to come out a year after the last one, so we could speed up that process, let's do it. Which is fine, but in the competitive world of games, you gotta price that shit accordingly. And as fun as I had playing this game, I can't justify the $60 price tag. So I'm gonna say this game's definitely worth getting at sale price. All right, so the remake of Resident Evil 3, have you played it? What did you think about it? How does it compare to the original game? Are you having a blast with it? Do you think it's worth 60 bucks? Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you wanna see more, click right here to see more.